Welcome back to Folklore and Skincare, beauty lovers and history geeks and geekettes. This is a podcast where we dig up the dirtiest secrets of the past. I'm Mindy, your guide to the glamorous and the gruesome on today's episode. And as always, I'm joined by the ever-curious, ever-rabbit-holing, ever-inquisitive Candace.
Hey guys, Mindy, I'm practically vibrating with anticipation here. I'm sensing that we're going way beyond basic skincare today, right? Something pretty intense.
We are diving headfirst into a world of powdered poison, a cosmetic so deadly it was whispered about in royal courts and even blamed for hauntings. We are talking about lead.
Lead, as in the heavy metal we know is toxic, like the stuff that's used in old pipes that we already know cause neurological damage, right? Like they're using that in cosmetics, right? I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this because it's not just a historical curiosity. Lead is a known poison. So how could they justify putting that on their skin? It's just horrifying.
Yep, they were using that in cosmetics. And for a long time, lead was kind of the must-have beauty product. So forget your hyaluronic acid. This was a secret to that coveted, ghostly, pale complexion. They were slathering literal poison on their faces.
All right, so I'm on the edge of my seat anticipating hearing about all of this, especially the serious health hazards. I mean, but before we get into the crazy stuff, can we go back to the beginning? Like how far back are we really talking?
So we are talking pretty ancient. I'm sure that if we really wanted to, we could go back to like BCE, but I'm going to take us to 1st century AD. Some of the earliest written accounts of lead's use in cosmetics and its dangers actually came from Pliny the Elder. You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote a few things.
He wrote a few things. He's the name of a beer.
Yeah, a beer, a fave by many.
Yeah, he was a naturalist, a philosopher, a prolific writer. He wrote a massive encyclopedia called Natural History, which covered everything from botany to mineralogy and, of course, cosmetics. So Natural History provides a fascinating, though sometimes alarming glimpse into the cosmetic practices of ancient Rome. So some of his specific writings on the subject, he described the preparation of it so that it could be used for cosmetic purposes, like how it was
created.
Yeah, kind of like how it was processed.
Yeah.
The preparation of cerusa, which is the white lead carbonate.
Okay.
He talks about how people would mix it with vinegar to kind of create a more like spreadable solution.
An easier to apply product, if you will.
Exactly. We'll come back to this recipe later on in the
story. Okay.
But yeah, he also kind of acknowledged the harmful effects of lead, noting its potential to cause, of course, skin ulcers.
So first century,
folks.
Pliny, hey, yo, guys, this causes skin ulcers, some health problems, and
calling it out first thing.
Right. Yeah. He's like kind of first on the scene and saying, this is not okay. This is not something that we should be using on ourselves. Yeah. So, okay. Pliny. The ancient world's first beauty blogger.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
I mean, so wild, right? He said it. It's harmful. We shouldn't use it. We shouldn't touch it. It shouldn't come in contact with humans. So please tell me, what was the appeal?
Right. I'm sure we're all wondering.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, of course, it comes down to kind of vanity. So,
surprise,
right? Pale skin was a status symbol. It meant that you weren't laboring outside.
Sure.
Right. And in the Renaissance, a specific type of refined lead-based cosmetic became incredibly popular, particularly in Venice, it was called. Venetian Ceruse.
Oh, yes. So methinks that's a specific type of lead cosmetic.
Right. So the key difference between Venetian Ceruse and then just regular lead um, in cosmetics kind of lies in the refinement and preparation process, making it a more desirable, albeit still incredibly dangerous product. So we can kind of talk a little bit about the breakdown.
Right, of comparing and contrasting regular lead foundation versus Venetian Ceruse.
I mean, first of all, right off the bat, the name, right?
Well, of course, let's just put it in a dress, you know? I mean, let's smother some lipstick on this and,
On this metaphorical
pig. And this is I mean, okay, maybe, all right. So Venetian Ceruse, they're saying that this is a higher quality and a pure product.
Right. So
They made this more specific process. I mean, what did you find out about this?
Right. So basically, it's like the process turns out this product that's like a fine, smooth powder. And it kind of affected the texture and application of the cosmetic. So a finer powder, of course, created a smoother, more even, more desirable finish on the skin.
So you have a better but it's not safer. It wasn't okay. So
No, it doesn't make it any less dangerous when it's like further refined.
Yeah, I feel like the finer the powder, the better the inhalation.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And of course, we're not wearing face masks in the
when we're crushing and pulverizing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how this whole refinement process was made, but I would assume that there would be crushing and pulverizing and whatnot involved.
Mortar and pestle.
Yeah, that kind of to grind it up into the finest powder.
With
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because, regular lead unrefined is really coarse. So that wouldn't look as good on the skin.
No.
But
so back to vinegar.
Yeah. Okay. That's the other thing is vinegar and lead.
Right. So Venetian Ceruse. So again, we're during the Renaissance, right? So
yeah.
So this is way beyond Pliny the Elder's time.
Right. We're what, 14th and 15th century?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there?
Somewhere around there. So, and then they're going back to this method of mixing vinegar, with the lead. And they're claiming it to be more of a proprietary formula.
Okay. I mean, gosh, it's fascinating. I can think of lots of modern parallels to this, but I'm not. I'm going to hold back.
For a later episode.
This is for another time.
Yeah.
But but Venice in general at this time was a hub, right?
Yeah. Huge trade.
Yeah. Lots and lots of trade. The pigment world was all coming in and out of Venice.
Exactly. There was a lot of comings and goings. You think about there's just a candid audience too. So it's just, I mean, they're able to move.
Lots of money.
Yeah. So it's, it's becoming this the more that we put secretive on something, the more, right? The more desirable it becomes.
Well, yeah, Venice. I mean, you think
that proprietary blend.
Yeah, that proprietary blend coming out of the epicenter of luxury and refinement.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Right. And so I'm sure that this commanded a premium price.
Right. So that, like you just said, that association with Venice kind of created
a little bit of hubbub.
Desirability.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and of course, there was a social status associated with it too. The use of Venetian Ceruse became a symbol of wealth and status, and the smooth, pale complexion that it created was highly fashionable at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just kind of being associated with Venice kind of added to its allure.
Well, and so and we know from that time, Madame de Pompadour used it.
Right.
Queen Elizabeth used it. Most royal ladies of any station would be using this particular product.
That's right.
Because it's all about status.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, so Venetian Ceruse was just a luxury version of their Walgreens. cosmetics,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically like your luxury version versus your drugstore version.
Yeah.
But this was poisonous no matter what.
No matter how you slice it,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, so we know like it's mentioned in a lot of different areas like Egypt and Greece and Rome, and they were all using this lead carbonate and lead sulfide. But hey, the Italians, they were using that premium.
they sure were. They really were.
So, all right. So this was all about your social status. Got it.
Yep. Exactly. Another fun nickname for lead. So we've got lead, we've got Venetian Ceruse.
Yeah.
Another one was spirits of Saturn.
That just sounds so ominous.
Right? It makes it's like, wait, hold on a second.
Wait.
What? So the association of lead with spirits of Saturn is kind of rooted in ancient and medieval systems of alchemy and astrology. It wasn't necessarily a nickname that popped up at a specific singular moment, but kind of a concept that developed over a longer period of time. So getting into a little bit of the roots of it. So from antiquity, like from the beginning of time.
Yeah, you're talking about like people studying the stars and astrologers and that kind of thing. And so like each planet already has things associated with it.
Right.
Gemstones, metals, plants, deities, gods and goddesses, and, all of these things.
Characteristic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like that. And this was kind of like just kind of accepted and passed along through time up until
lead and Saturn.
Lead and Saturn up until about like the mid 18th century. And also up until this time, there were only 7 known planets.
Okay.
There were also only 7 metals that were recognized up until this time. Right? So there was like...
That made it easy.
It made it easy.
So gold for the sun.
Gold for the sun.
Right?
That's exactly right. Silver for the moon.
Silver for the moon. Always has been, always will be. Right?
Always, exactly.
Mercury.
Iron was associated with Mars.
Right. Okay. The red planet.
Copper was linked with Venus.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then, like you said, the chameleon metal.
Chameleon.
Mercury.
Yeah.
Same name as
Mercury.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, that's really cool. So then what was the new metal that was discovered then after there was, because obviously we discover new things all the time. So like 18th century, then that changed.
I don't know what the 8th one was, but then over the course of time, there were so many more that were discovered and found that like they kind of threw out this whole theory of like,
planet correspondence,
because it just was like kind of debunked. It was like, but there's way more than 7.
We know. Yeah. And now we know that there's so many. Well, now we have an entire periodic table of elements.
Exactly.
Right. So
at one point in time, there were like kind of a way to kind of wrap your arms around the concept a little bit more of like the metals and the planets. But, it was just kind of an ancient correlation, which I thought was...
That's really cool.
Yeah. So spirits of Saturn was the furthest planet away at the time when they were like the seven metals, 7 planets.
Sure.
So Saturn's association with like there was like limitations. So like Saturn represented limitations and death.
Yeah.
And
heavy.
Cold, heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heavy, dull, limiting. Even now, like the term Saturnine even describes like those like gloomy, slow qualities.
So you're not depressed, you're feeling Saturnine,
right? So lead, and you think about all the ways that it's like, it's causing all this breakdown. It's causing all this death, right?
On your face.
In
real time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Because then they're like, you already established that they had these corresponding traits, and still somehow we were like, well, let's put lead on our face.
Exactly.
Where I'm like,
there's all this alchemy behind it that's like, this might not be the best idea.
And I mean, right. And research and people that had already said this is not good for you, not long term,
Yeah.
something that you shouldn't be inhaling or ingesting or letting sit on your skin.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, we get through like ancient times, we move through like medieval times.
yeah,
It's still like further solidified as this association.
yeah,
As lead being consistently linked to Saturn.
yeah.
And then by the Renaissance era, these associations were well established. And when lead based cosmetics like Venetian Ceruse became popular, the spirits of Saturn moniker was just like kind of a natural extension of this existing connection. So, yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just they linked a toxic metal to a planet associated with death, and we already know that this is not a good thing. Like I said,
Yet we're still just smearing the poison all over our face. We can't get enough of it.
well,
Yeah. So another thing about this inhospitable cosmetic, because of the skin problems it caused, I mean, beyond ulcers, like acne and scarring, some people thought it was a mark of witchcraft.
what? Okay. Oh, bad skin was a sign that you were a witch. Okay.
In a time of fear and limited medical knowledge, absolutely.
Of course.
Cosmetics were already seen as deceptive, and the damage Ceruse caused looked really unnatural. So while there isn't a specific, like widely recounted historical tale of someone accused solely of witchcraft due to Venetian Ceruse, the practice likely contributed to the climate of suspicion surrounding certain individuals, particularly women. The unnatural appearance, the potential for misinterpreting the symptoms of lead poisoning, and the general distrust of cosmetics in some circles all played a role in this association. The fear was there, and it likely colored perceptions and contributed to the broader phenomenon of witch accusations.
Okay. Well, this tracks, especially when you're talking about royalty, and then they were the ones that were using cosmetics, or at least these really expensive types of cosmetics more exclusively. Then you start diving into the spiritual or religious connotations of that time and specific groups that were highly against the use of any kind of cosmetics at all, because it inherently meant that you were impure.
Altering God's creation.
You're altering, yeah, exactly. You can't, you're defying the divine. And if you were just naturally beautiful, that's what God intended. And then of course too, then there's that when you're talking about Venice, and then you start talking about France. And in that particular period of time, there were plenty of brothels.
Absolutely.
The prostitution trade was alive and well. And these women also really tried to mimic high society, for better or for worse.
Sure.
So, I mean, I see where we took a wrong turn here, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, but like, the white lead cosmetics were really, really white though. Super white,
thick, white.
Yeah. Like heavy. We've seen the movies, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But then, okay, so then like this is then considered like you use this product, now you have acne, so now it's the mark of the witch.
Exactly. So like
you're not ill.
You're not, it's just, you're using this product to look a certain way. It's causing detrimental effects on your skin.
Yeah.
So skin sores, discoloration, I mean, even like hair loss.
Yeah.
Could have been like misinterpreted as physical marks inflicted by malevolent forces or the devil, which was just kind of like just a result of using some makeup.
Right. But was also used to accuse terrible things to people here.
I know.
So that's so interesting. People couldn't even use then, if you wanted to use cosmetics, then you kind of had to do it in private.
Yes.
Like you had to be on the down low.
Yeah.
on this and like making it also look more natural to kind of like hide. You didn't want it to look overtly overdone.
The secrecy that we're talking about can, would breed suspicion with like neighbors or
The whispers would start.
the whispers. Exactly. And then, the association with vanity and temptation. So the pursuit of beauty was sometimes linked to vanity, which was considered a sin.
Yeah, in a religious context. And so they're just poisoning themselves and then being accused of witchcraft. That's just bonkers.
Pretty much. Lead wasn't the only culprit. Mercury, arsenic were also used in cosmetics.
Of course.
Oh, and even coal, which can still be seen
Today. And it's the lead for the most part.
For the most part. But some, there's places farther reaches of the world that,
Obviously are still using
more traditional ingredients.
have lead in them already still.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're kind of trying to move on beyond the health risks associated with lead.
Pliny knew.
He knew.
And he wrote all of these books.
He wrote all about it.
Wrote all about it. Ugh. Yeah.
We're just not paying attention.
Usually seems to be the case.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
that's pretty much all I have for today. And the history of lead and its fun associations.
Yeah, so fascinating to the planet Saturn and being accused of witchcraft to just trying to look nice before you go out at night. I mean,
trying to put on a pale face.
Just trying to put on a pale face before you got together with the girls and got accused of tripped and fell and it's a pile of witchcraft.
Man. Oh, it's a reminder to
stay safe.
But yeah, always be careful about what you put on your face. It seems too good to be true. It probably is.
Right? I mean, we'd love to hear your thoughts, you guys. I mean, of course, we love ideas for future episodes. So,
yeah.
Don't forget, I'm the Spa Witch.
And I am the Everyday SD.
Find us on Facebook or Instagram. So, we will see you next week.
Stay safe, guys.
Yeah, enjoy some springtime weather.
Yeah,
wherever you are. Bye.